from a film you probably didn't realize was officially one of the scariest of all time, to the scene that almost ruined Nutella for one actor. Here are some mad horror truths that have only just been revealed. I'm Gareth, this is What Culture Horror, and here are 8 crazy horror movie truths we've just learned. Number 8, Oddity is now one of the scariest movies ever made, according to science. Creeping its way into the world a few months ago, Irish horror Oddity quickly became one of the most talked about scary pictures of the year. Many even called it the very best of 2024. Focusing on a blind psychic who is also a curio shopkeeper, dealing with the death of her twin and a wooden mannequin from her collection that helps her figure out what happened to her sister, Oddity has been described as legitimately frightening. Those claims are certainly supported by a recent experiment. The Science of Scare project is something that occurs every year, and it involves asking 250 people to watch a collection of the scariest English language movies. Said viewers are fitted with heart rate monitors, with their hearts then being monitored throughout the movies. This helps the team figure out a Science of Scare score for the films out of 100. Just so you know, Shrek apparently got a 3. Of the 10 new films that were shown to this bunch, Oddity was the only one that made its way into the top 20 scariest movies of all time list created from these scores. It got a decent 69. Hey. 2012 Sinister is currently the scariest movie ever in this list at least, after briefly losing top spot to 2020's host. So there you go, according to actual science, Damien McCarthy's Oddity is now one of the scariest movies ever made. Number 7, the film offers dried up for almost a year after Melissa Barrera's firing from Scream 7. In the wake of posting in support of Palestine on her Instagram, Melissa Barrera was dropped from the upcoming Scream 7 last year. It was a firing that caused quite the reaction online, with many fans threatening to boycott the incoming 7th installment. A year on from that controversial exit, Barrera has now revealed to The Independent that her career very much suffered from being suddenly booted from the series due to her social media posts. The 34-year-old actor, whose star was definitely on the rise following her work in the likes of In the Heights and the newer Scream movies, noted how offers very much dried up for about 10 months after her sacking. She was still getting sent smaller roles, sure, but she felt like the message being sent was, oh, she probably doesn't have work, she'll say yes to anything. And that's not very nice, is it? The likes of 2024's Abigail and Your Monster had both been shot before she hit the headlines late last year, with Barrera classing the 12 months that followed the Scream firing as the darkest and hardest year of her life, and even admitted that there were times when she felt like her life was over. About 2 months ago, though, the talented star finally started receiving good offers again, and looks set to resume her career after it was somewhat derailed by her high-profile axing from the Scream franchise. Hopefully she can now put what must have been a seriously stressful and crazy period behind her, and focus on producing more exciting work going forward. Number 6, Lauren Lavera refused to shoot a Terrifier 3 scene because of her love of Nutella. Who doesn't love sticking a spoon or 10 into a big tub of Nutella and regretting their choices a few hours later, eh? Yep, that's my Friday night. Lauren Lavera, one of the stars of Terrifier 3, is also quite the fan of the chocolate hazelnut spread, and this was the main reason why she demanded something change in one particular scene in the movie before she shot it. There's a point there when her character, Sienna, found herself having to deal with someone trying to choke her with intestines, as you do. Director Damien Leone wanted her to chew through them, as Lavera would recently tell SFX magazine, but after they suggested using Nutella for the feces, she quickly begged them to use something else. Instead of ruining Nutella then, the special effects team left Lavera not looking at crushed cherries the same way again, with these combined with washing up liquid being used to create the balmy moment in the end. That combo shot right up her nose when they shot the horrible scene, and this was the take they ultimately used. Lavera would also claim she spent the next few days coughing up washing up liquid too. Lovely. But at least you can still enjoy a nice bite of Nutella. That's all that really matters. Number 5, just how many real live rats will be present on screen in Nosferatu. Without doubt, one of the most anticipated horror movies of the whole damn year, Robert Eggers' take on Nosferatu is a film just about every lover of frightening trips to the cinema cannot wait to sink their teeth into. You see what I did there? All that buzz is the result of a star-studded cast, Eggers being one of the most reliable creators of unsettling stories working today, and some seriously creepy trailers for the gothic vampire tale. News of the lengths the director was willing to go to when crafting this mesmerizing world have also left people wishing it was December 25th already. The film releases on Christmas Day this year in the US. In case you didn't know, the director himself claimed one scene involving Willem Dafoe's Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz contained both real flames and a horrifying 2,000 live rats. But if that wasn't already impressive and crazy enough to make you want to buy a ticket, it turns out that the total number of rats actually used in the film was way bigger. As he told Deadline recently, there were in fact 5,000 real rats in his film, with only those seen in the background being CGI. They were apparently well trained, you'll be pleased to hear. However, Eggers didn't realise rats were incontinent, so the smell is insane, according to him. So just remember that whenever you see poor Dafoe and co share the screen with their rodent co-stars in Nosferatu. Do you want some more What Culture horror videos in your life? I know you do, so hit that subscribe button and that's precisely what you will get. Number 4. Margaret Qualley had a panic attack while filming scenes in The Substance. As this list has already shown, actors are sometimes thrown into some quite intense and surreal situations when shooting horror pictures, being surrounded by live rats, eating fake intestines, you know the stuff. And we've now learned that Margaret Qualley was put in a similarly bizarre sitch when filming one specific sequence in Coralie Fajar's 2024 hit body horror The Substance. In that film about fading star Elizabeth Sparkle, played by Demi Moore, using a black market drug to make a much younger version of herself, Qualley played said younger Sparkle. But things end up inevitably getting a little weird, and there's even a point in the film when a grotesque combination of Qualley and Moore's characters rears its head. To create these moments, Qualley was covered in prosthetics and had her co-star's face plastered on her body. The whole thing was quite the ordeal for the actor, as she'd recently call it a torture chamber, and noted how there were a ton of videos of her saying, "I can't do this anymore," over the 8 days needed to get the shot in the can. Powering through until she had a panic attack, it was revealed in that Los Angeles Times conversation that Qualley had to refrain from giving in to the urge to rip off the prosthetics because you'll bring your skin with you, she said. Yikes. In other words, she well and truly went through it to bring these unforgettable Monstro Elisa Sue moments to the screen, folks. Number 3, Ray Nicholson was cast in Smile 2 as a homage to an iconic movie. One of those rare horror sequels that manages to improve on the compelling story that came before it. Smile 2 is one of the year's most haunting and terrifying delights. There's just something about watching a person stare deep into your soul with an ear-to-ear grin that never fails to send chills up your spine. And Paul Hudson, played by Ray Nicholson, arguably boasted the most horrifying smile of the lot. If that spooky grin felt weirdly familiar though, that's likely because Ray is the son of the iconic Jack Nicholson, with the latter's menacing smile being one of the most unforgettable parts of The Shining, of course. And director Parker Finn recently revealed to Entertainment Weekly that Ray was actually totally cast as a reference to that Stanley Kubrick classic. Along with producing a strong audition, the actor's smile felt like looking at a young Jack, according to Finn. He definitely didn't write Paul with Nicholson in mind, but when the actor walked into the room and crushed it, his link to the legendary movie was a wonderful kismet and provided his movie with a cool reference to his all-time favourite. That's not the only interesting reference to Finn's favourite movie in Smile 2 either. The colours seen during the gala scene involving Ray were a nod to the bar scene in The Shining 2. Number 2, another Alien vs Predator movie is probably coming. Both the Alien and Predator franchises have experienced many highs and lows over the last few decades. After getting off to strong starts, the Xenomorph and Yautja have found themselves in the middle of some great films: Aliens, Alien Romulus, Prometheus, and Prey, and some, well, not so great ones. Pretty much everything that isn't what I just mentioned. They were even thrown into a few crossover event movies, but both AVP and AVP Requiem didn't exactly live up to the hype, and felt like a waste of two of cinema's most terrifying aliens. But in a piece of news that will likely catch many off guard, it looks like we may not have seen the last of the AVP series. Sort of. In a recent conversation with The Hollywood Reporter, 20th Century Studios boss Steve Aspel was asked about whether a new Alien vs Predator movie would be heading our way in the future? His answer? Probably. Well, who saw that coming, eh? Now, it must be noted that Aspel swiftly followed this up by adding that this potential third crossover wouldn't be anything like the original movies, or be called Alien vs. Predator again. As Aspel put it, if we do this, they'll be organically created out of these two franchises that we've continued with characters that we fall in love with, and those characters will combine, perhaps. But we haven't gotten to that point, and we're not just gonna bang it out. So there you have it. While it isn't exactly 100% confirmed, 20th Century Studios are remarkably pondering the idea of once again letting these two sci-fi horror icons loose together on the big screen. What could go wrong? Number 1, Hugh Grant's Jar Jar Binks impression in Heretic becomes even funnier or weirder when you know the truth. Even if you haven't seen Hugh Grant having all kinds of fun playing the charming but actually rather sinister Mr. Reed in Scott Beck and Brian Wood's hit psychological horror Heretic, there's a good chance you have seen his viral impression of a certain Star Wars character. The moment is a wonderful mixture of quirky and unsettling, with Grant suddenly breaking out into an impression of the Gungan played by Ahmed Best in the prequels when talking to Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. And while you may have thought that Grant at least revisited Episode 1 The Phantom Menace before going full Jar Jar on screen, it turns out that not only did he not bother watching that movie during his research, he's actually never seen a Star Wars movie at all. Now sure, he watched a few clips on YouTube before having a go at the line, "Jar Jar, excuse me." Yep, never doing that again. But he hasn't ever sat down to watch one of the space operas, and simply felt the Gungan moment would be fun for his character to do because it was just weird. Well, he's not wrong. It's not just Star Wars movies that Grant hasn't watched either. The star of this acclaimed slice of horror doesn't really watch films in that scary genre, claiming that they're too frightening for him and that he's only ever seen a few, with The Exorcism and Midsommar being two of them. The latter was apparently a mistake too, after assuming it was just a jolly Swedish comedy that would cheer his Swedish wife up. But that was an ordeal. We've spoken about Star Wars a bit there, so now it's probably a good time to let you know that we've also got a What Culture Star Wars channel that you should definitely check out if you like that stuff, but not you, Hugh Grant, you're not allowed now. Boo.